is not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha, covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1. No touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 143 of the Golf Guru Show. I'm your host, Jason Sutton, Director of Instruction at the beautiful Colleton River Club in Bluffton, South Carolina, where it is my mission to break down high performers in the teaching and coaching business, unpack and dig out what makes them great and successful. Make sure you download this episode and all previous episodes so you don't miss out on future episodes that will be coming your way. We got a bunch of great guests in line and can't wait to share them with you all. All I ask is that you share this podcast on social and with other coaches and players that might benefit from this information. I'm very excited for my next guest on this episode, as it is my good friend Christoph Bausek. Christoph is a top teaching professional based in Austria that has an incredible story and is getting after it and dominating in the Austria, Germany, and Switzerland market, and soon to be coming to the US, as we talk about in this podcast. He is certified in just about everything you could think of: TPI, Aimpoint, TrackMan, force plates of all sorts, 3D, as we have this conversation about all of these technologies, which is super interesting. In this awesome conversation, we also discuss his work with one of his tour players that he guided from the Alps Tour, which is kind of like a level 3 mini tour, to the TP World Tour, and how he's built his online presence with his YouTube channel and his Instagram in German and then now coming in English. You can follow him on Instagram at Christoph_Bausek and check out his YouTube channel in German and also English, depending on where you are in this part of the world listening to this. So hopefully we grow our listenership over in that area. Christoph is one of the most passionate coaches that I've ever met. And I think it comes through in his story in this podcast with all of his knowledge and all of the education that he's done over the years. This guy is just really, really getting after it, and enjoyed our conversation immensely. So without further delay, please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with my friend, Christoph Bausek. All right, Christoph, all the way from Austria, maybe my farthest guest ever. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Jason. Yeah, that's cool. Possible, yeah. Austria is in Europe, by the way, who doesn't know, next to Germany. Yeah, so great to be on the show. Thank you.
I'm trying to expand my range a little bit. It's interesting when I look at my stats, is, you know, how many people listen across the world. So I appreciate you coming on, and I know you're super big in that area of the world, and happy to share you with my part of the country. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. Great to be on the show.
I want to start with a little different intro here than probably you would expect, but your hobbies kind of fascinate me. Talk to me a little bit about how you got into magic. You do close-up magic and do some shows. Like, talk a little bit about that.
Well, I started with magic actually when I was a teenager, like maybe, I don't know, like 15 years old. I met a guy my age back then who was into magic, and he showed me some cool stuff. And I actually found out back then when I was a teenager that girls liked the tricks I did. So it actually was
Yeah.
to brag a little bit, you know, in front of the girls. But then my golfing career got in my way, basically. So I had to stop with magic. And yeah, funny enough, the same guy who taught me magic, like in the beginning, I met him like, I don't know, what was it, like 15 years later when I was in my 30s again. And he showed me some cool magic tricks. And he said, hey, listen, I'm like a semi-professional magician now. I do some little gigs and stuff like that. And he showed me a magic trick, and it absolutely blew my mind. Then I said, come on, you have to teach me the trick. You know, you have to teach me. He said,
Right.
I can't. Hey, you're a magician, you know, you're a retired magician. You should know you don't show tricks. And I said, okay, listen, only tell me the name of the trick and I will find out myself. And he actually was so kind and tell me the name of it. And I was really digging really deep, find out how he worked. And actually I found out how he worked. But by learning how it worked, I learned so many new techniques that actually I got in a completely new level just by learning this one trick. And then, and this guy took me to the Magic Club a couple of weeks later. Yeah, and that's how it started. And then I like practiced for, I don't know, like every night, 4 or 5 hours. I had so much fun. And yeah, that's basically the story. And I started to do it like for golf, in golf tournaments, amateur golf tournaments. I did some like Peter Pro events. And in the evening, I was the close-up magician. I did stuff like that for businesses back then and for some weddings and that kind of stuff. So it was like a business next to my golfing career, So that was a fun time. Since my kids arrived 8-9 years ago, I stopped completely with magic, to be honest. I have no time. But if I have time, I like to look in the books, and learn something new.
That's awesome. Let's take the listeners back to the beginning, because I think your story is really incredible and super interesting, and how you got to be a big-time coach. Take us back to when you learned, started with golf, and then sort of give us the evolution of how you got to where you are today.
Well, I started as a young kid, probably with 3 years of age. My dad is a keen golfer who basically is Austrian. My mom is American. She's from California. And she met my dad in Vienna when she was studying in Vienna. That's how he got to Austria, basically. And my dad was actually working in England back then. So that's how he got to golf. And my grandma, she retired with a business and said, hey, come over to Austria, take my business. And he said, well, can I play golf then? Said, yeah, you have much more time to play golf. And that's how it started, that we had a little house like 1 hour away from my place next to the golf course where I spent my weekends with my family. And we were playing as kids in the forests, and looking for golf balls basically, and started to pick up on the game and played more and more and more. And then like when I was like 13, maybe I was 14, I don't know. I decided I want to become a professional golfer, I had like a handicap of 8 or 7 back then. So nothing, I mean, not bad for a 14-year-old kid, but but probably nowadays, if you're not like at least a scratch, you're probably not thinking about this. But yeah, but that is what it was. And then I got really good, really quick. I got into the Austrian national team when I was like 15 years old, and got up to one of the best leading amateurs in Europe in 1995 something, 1996, 97. 97 probably was my best year. And I was playing with guys back then, with the Sergio Garcias, the Henrik Stensons, all these boys, They were like my age group back then, yeah. I mean, Sergio was younger, obviously, and Henrik a little bit older. But basically, all these guys who were playing now on the tours, I played with them back then. I qualified for the, what was it called? The Sheikh Trophy, which is like the European continent team. This is, you say, like a team match between Central Europe and Great Britain and Ireland. Probably very similar to the Walker Cup, only that it's just in between Europe. Yeah. I qualified for the team back then, with Sergio in the team back then, Sergio Garcia.
That's so cool.
That was really cool back then, yeah. So I became professional and thinking, hey, man, this is going to be easy. Actually, I remember very first event, I got an invite from the Austrian Golf Federation for the Italian Open back then.
Wow. And, so this is when you turned pro at 20, correct?
Yeah, exactly. That was my first event, but that was Challenge Tour. And Challenge Tour, you have to imagine, is probably the equivalent to the Korn Ferry Tour, probably which
right.
The European Tour back then was like the PGA Tour, and then we had the Challenge Tour, which is like the Korn Ferry Tour, the second league. And I started like in the gale. We had so much wind. I started like, I think, 70 and 72. Remember that bogeyed the last 4 holes in the second round and was like 7th after 2 days, even though I finished with 4 bogeys. And I thought, hey man, if just make bloody 4 pars, you're probably 1 or 2 shots away from the lead. And I said, it's so easy on this tour. It's so easy. Damn, I'm going to win in no time. Yeah. So I shot 80 and 79, third and fourth round. Finished like that last in the cut, I think. It took me another 5 events to make another cut. And I got very realistic very soon. so probably you were not that good. Maybe my confidence level was really good. And but I still had good rounds, good stuff going on from time to time. But I mean, the biggest problem I had back then was my driver. I was hitting it crooked and short, which is a very bad combination.
Yeah, it's not good.
I always thought my putting is great. I've always been a great putter and a wedge player and stuff like that. But my driving was awful. Yeah, and then I had to admit, with like after 6 years playing on the Challenge Tour and some third level tours, never made it to the top tour, unfortunately. I had to admit, okay, just not good enough. I'm sorry. So
tough decision, isn't it? Like, I mean, but 5 or 6 years is it's a good litmus test, I would guess.
Yeah, a lot of experience, saw many courses, met many people, and at least I got a feeling what it takes to become a good player, even though I was never able to be my best version maybe back then, you know?
Right. Are you comfortable talking about your health struggles? Because I thought that was a lot to kind of unpack if you're comfortable talking about that and how that's affected your life in a positive way after you kind of got through it.
Yeah, I would like to talk about it. Why not? I mean, there's something to learn about it maybe. Ever since I was young, I had problems with overweight. I was never the most fit, not the fittest guy, not the best athlete. I sometimes made it in my career to get very fit, by really pushing myself, but I would get fat very fast, very soon again. So after I did some achievements, and basically I got really, really fit just before I stopped my playing career in, I don't know, what was it, like 2003 or something? I was like 26 years old. Mm-hmm. And then when I stopped playing, I started to get fatter and fatter and fatter, just teaching golf a lot and not playing as much. I mean, I was still playing a lot, but I got fatter and fatter. But then, I mean, I always lost weight again, gained weight, lost weight, that's how it works,
Sure.
But then it was like 9 years ago or something. It was 2015, yeah, I remember that. I decided to quit smoking because I was also a smoker back then. And I thought it was a very bad combination, being a smoker and being obese, I got my first son who is like nearly 9 years old. I thought I have to be healthy. I have to stop smoking. I have to get fit again. So what happened is I stopped smoking to get healthy. And actually I gained so much weight. I really got a problem this time. So
I guess because smoking almost keeps your weight down occasionally, right? I mean,
yeah, but this time I think I gained like, I want to lie, but probably something like 130 pounds in no time. I mean, like crazy. I made a crazy amount of like 60, 65 kilos I gained in a really short time. And then I was a non-smoker. I don't smoke today, by the way, but I was really, really heavy. And then I started injuring myself too. I hurt my knee, and then it really went down the drain. And it got to a point where I had to quit golfing. It got to a point where I couldn't breathe properly, where I couldn't even get up from the floor. I mean, I was playing with my boy. They have two, but back then I was playing the floor, and I wasn't even able to get up anymore. And then I thought, hey, this is not you. I mean, I was really, really struggling, and I tried to lose weight. I maybe lost 5 kilos, gained another 7, So
it's tough.
Yeah, it was really tough. So in nearly 4 years now ago, I made a decision. I said, okay, I have to do something because otherwise this is not gonna work for very long. And I was really afraid of dying, to be honest, dying young. Then I decided to go to a doctor and say, listen, I cannot handle it anymore. I do what you want. I don't care. Do what you want. Just get me out of this situation. Everything I'm trying is going the other way. So I went to experts, and the expert said, hey, listen, you need a proper diet, of course, but first we have to get rid of your stomach. So basically I had a surgery. It's called a gastric sleeve, where they basically cut roughly 90% away from your stomach. So you're not able to eat as much as you were able to. Yeah, and with that, I lost nearly 150 pounds in a very short time. Yeah, a very short time. From being not able to get from the floor to swinging the driver again with 112, 130 miles per hour and shooting on the par again. That's a big difference. I mean, I haven't played the golf tournament since 7 years until last October, like an Austrian pro event, a bigger pro event. And last year, I played the PGA of Austria Championships after 7 years because I wasn't able to play, to be honest, before that. And I shot like 1 under and 4 under par. It was in the storm. I finished 8th, and I thought that was
fantastic.
Yeah, and I thought that was the old Bausek when I was younger. Last fall, I had a feeling I was playing my best golf my whole life. So I really got back, and I'm really happy because now I feel really healthy, very fit, trying to do more sports. I'm obviously very, very busy, which keeps me away sometimes from the gym and playing golf, as much golf as I would love to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I managed to get my weight under control. I'm still a little bit overweight, of course. I mean, if you have seen my videos, there's a little belly. It's some
We all have that.
some love handles, right? Yeah. But I would say everything's under control now, and I'm slowly losing weight, still controlled. Yeah, I'm very happy that I did this, and that's saved my life basically.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I know that's not easy to talk about, but I think it could help a lot of people out there. And we talk about working out with our players, and that the guys that you're working with on DP World Tour and Challenge Tour. It's like we'd like to have that energy and also kind of set an example. So kudos to you for doing that. Take us through, because I know me and you share that sort of continuous learning gene, and we've talked off air and some from afar about the certifications that you have and all the information and education that you've done over the years, and then how that's helped you kind of get to where you are now. So take us through the rest of your journey as far as who you've learned from, how you've gotten to where you are now, because you're coaching some unbelievable players out there in Europe. So I think that'd be a good starting point for getting into some teaching stuff.
Yeah, well, after I had to commit to stop playing golf, I said, okay, I cannot accept I didn't make it. In my mind, I was still the best player ever on the planet, and I didn't make it. I had to find out what was going wrong. So I accepted, okay, I'm a coach now. I cannot afford playing anymore. It's okay, I was like 26 back then when I called it a day. But I said, I have to find out what was going wrong. And so I did my PGA training, like the Austrian PGA training. Mm-hmm. I started doing further education after that. And actually back then, TPI was a big thing. I started to become a big thing, and Greg Rose, and then I went once to Holland, to the Netherlands, to visit TPI and meet Greg Rose for the very first time. And there was a 3D system there, AMM, 12 sensor system there at the seminar. And we were able to test it or have a swing captured. And that's the first time in my life I saw something like this. I didn't even know that this existed. So I volunteered, said, hey, I want to go. So he put me on, he wired me, he put all the wires on me, did all the calibration. And then I hit a couple of shots with a little air ball into a net or something. So not even a real golf ball. And I thought, okay, this guy's going to tell me how great I am, what everything is, everything cool about my swing. And then he said, okay, listen, your hips are really slow. Actually, if you were on the tour, you would have the slowest hip speed on the tour.
Gosh.
Yeah, your pelvis is not bending enough towards impact. If you were on the tour, you would be the guy with the least pelvis bend on the tour. And they told me like 5 or 6 things that were really bad. And then I actually had to digest it first. Say, what is he talking about? What is a pelvis bend, and what does this mean? So back then, in 2009, it was really tough to get information. I mean, it was not like you opened the Instagram and you have the Dr. Kwans and all these guys talking about it like every day. So it was tough to get information, and I solved it basically by getting involved with 3D. At first, I went to Chris Welsh with Cinelink. Mm-hmm. What Chris Welsh did back then, they had a capture system where they send you like a cube, basically, normed cube. It was a huge, humongous thing, like I think 1.5 meters times 1.5 meters, and I had this big cube standing in my teaching area, and then you would film the person from 2 angles and send it to them, and they would actually, then the experts, they would actually make a 3D analysis out of that. That's how I got into it, but it took like a week or something to get the information you needed. So that was
wow.
So, but it was cool because I had contact with Chris Welsh back then, who's a very clever guy. Learned the first basics about biomechanic, and 1 or 2 years later, probably 2013, I bought my first AMM system. And that was mind-blowing because I started now to measure every pro I was able to measure, and I measured every amateur. I would stay up really long at nights and look at all the graphs and thinking, what the heck is he doing? Why is he hitting the ball better than him? Then I would talk to other guys who had systems like that, and of course, obviously also Phil Cheatham, and stuff like that. And so I got a really good picture about what does an elite pro movement actually do? What is it? And then I looked at the other stuff, other amateurs, what they were doing, and I saw, okay, there's definitely different movement patterns. And so studying that, I got really aware of what's happening with the body. Nearly the same time I started with TrackMan, maybe a little before that even. And I remember, actually I was practicing magic tricks. And I was done doing a magic trick at 2:00 at night. And I had back then my first player who later became my assistant. And his sponsor actually had a TrackMan back then.
Okay. Early days.
Yeah, the early days. So that was probably around 2011 or something. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
He would take the TrackMan along to the lessons we had because his sponsor said we could use it. And then he put it down there on the floor and say, okay, listen, Christoph, this is the TrackMan. It's going to tell you about the club path, about this. And I said, okay, what's vertical plane? What's horizontal plane? What does attack angle mean? What is club path? What is swing direction? I don't get it, So in my world, what we learned from the PGA was the ball starts towards the path.
Oh, yeah.
It curves along the face, yeah, basically. So like we all learned, yeah. And I saw it didn't work, I saw Christoph coming in 5 degrees from the inside with a shut club face and hitting a pull slice. So how did that happen? Okay, so I was confused, and after doing some magic, I thought, hey, why don't you just go to YouTube and have a search for TrackMan or whatever? That was clever. Then it didn't take long that I found a video about D-plane. I said at the D what? Then yeah, and then I found some great videos after that.
Was it lights or was it Manzella? It was probably one of those.
No, at first it was lights, and I couldn't understand the word lights was saying. I have to credit Brian Manzella, okay? I found a video called The Essential D-Plane. And that video, I watched like 45-minute video. You've probably seen it, I'm sure.
I've seen it.
I've looked for it like 3 times, I think. And so it was 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was like shaking. I was like this, what the hell is going on? And I said, I have lessons the next day. I cannot even teach anymore. I mean,
I was right there with you, man. It blows your mind.
Everything I was teaching, I said, I called the next day. I called my first lessons and canceled them because I said I'm sick. I couldn't teach. I said I cannot go on like this. I have to organize what's going on. And I wrote an email to TrackMan at 4 o'clock in the morning and saying, how much is this thing?
I saw you had a picture with Frederick. Like you met Frederick.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, and then I got my first TrackMan, then somehow managed to get the money together and get my first TrackMan in 2011. And became a TrackMan master very fast, really interested. And I was able to spend some time with Frederick Tuxton, who's a really, really interesting guy. I mean, he was telling the stories like it all began when he had the idea, like, I want to see if a radar can track a golf ball. And he said, like, a golf ball is too slow for a radar. That was the biggest problem they had, he told me. Yeah. So stories like that. And it was great to spend time with him. Yeah, that's what happened. And I got to TrackMan, And for TrackMan, there was a very famous blog. Yours, number one, it was your blog. And number one was John Graham. Number one was John Graham, John Graham.
Yeah, that's right.
Who has become a great friend of mine later. And John wrote some blogs about TrackMan, about the attack angle and stuff like that in 2011, I think it was. And I got into contact with John. We had a Skype conversation back then. And basically we were like introducing ourselves. And then he said, I teach green reading. I said, that's cool, because I have absolutely no clue how to teach green reading. Everybody asked me, how do you teach green reading? I said, well, you get down on your knees and you look which set is lower. That's how you do green reading.
That's right.
And I cannot see which side is lower. Okay, so then you have to continue playing a while until you can see that. Well, no, but then so that there's a system called Aim Point. It's really cool. That's basically what I'm doing now as a living. I said, where are you? He said, like, I'm in Rochester, New York, or somewhere there. And I said, can you come to Austria and give a clinic? I organize a clinic with pros and some keen amateurs. And you just come over and we meet each other, hang out a little bit and talk about TrackMan and all that stuff and do some clinics together. So we did that. And actually, back then, John came with the charts, the good old charts.
Yep,
with
all the numbers, original.
And we were not even doing the midpoint read, which was the version before the Aimpoint Express read. We were doing the zero lines. So everybody who's learned Aimpoint Express now, we were running in circles around the hole and had to find a zero line. And then we had to take steps in a circle to find out the angle. And then we had to look in the chart. And it took like a minute.
Yes, if you were good at it.
Really good at it, yeah. I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool that you could actually calculate a line, and that's how I got into Aimpoint. And John said, "Hey, come on, get certified anyways. This is going to get better and better." So then it got better. We got the midpoint read, which was a much faster version. And then I was right there in 2013 in Valle Romano in Spain when Express was born. I mean, I remember
You got it 2 weeks before I did.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I was there, right there where I was right there in this group. And I remember Mark saying, hey, listen, guys, I have this idea with the left and right foot lower and using a thumb.
Yes.
I think you call it the thumbs up method.
Yep.
And I don't know if it was Mark or somebody else. I think it was Rob Genie, I remember, but maybe I'm wrong here. But I think somebody said
Rob Noel, I think, was involved in the original part as well.
Possibly, yeah. But somebody said, hey, listen, why don't we just use fingers? The steeper it gets, the more fingers we use. And we said, that's a really cool idea. It will not work at all, of course, but it's a really nice idea for a beginner to get an idea, of the concept, To get them into.
It was for juniors, wasn't it? When we first did it. Yeah, it's like for kids. That's what I tell people. Like, I don't get it. I'm like, are you kidding me? We taught this to 5-year-olds.
Exactly. And then suddenly we tried this. We tried this back then, and then we couldn't stop laughing, and we couldn't stop laughing that this worked.
Could not believe it.
And nobody understood why it worked, And we were standing there with the charts, and I think Mark even had his software out on that day, and I was looking at everything, Yeah, Mark Sweeney, being a very clever guy, found out why this works, and he found a very good way to handle the whole system really nicely and have it very simple but very accurate at the same time. So, I mean, if you're not into aim point, it's your fault. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'm not even saying that because I'm an aim point instructor. I mean, I think aim point is just brilliant. If you have problems with screen reading, you have to get into aim point. Yeah,
it's picking up steam a little bit. I think I think we had a little bit of a lull, when the certifications came out and other people that would get like secondhand knowledge of it when we're trying to teach it. Is that fair? Would you say? Are you finding that?
Yeah,
in Austria as well? And then now I think it's kind of picking up a little more steam. When you see tour players using it, obviously it helps. I'm getting out a lot more people that want to are curious about it. Anyways,
we have a lot of success in Austria with Aimpoint, and I mean I'm now on the tour from time to time with Lukas Nemetz, my protege. I'm with Lukas like since 2017, and we started working actually when Lukas was on the tour in 2016. He passed tour school in 2015, got on the tour, lost his card immediately. And he actually came to me because he was really, really struggling with putting. And his coach back then actually left Austria to go to Finland. And so he didn't have a coach, and he sucked at putting as well. And that's how we started working with Aimpoint. And he had to go from the European tour back then all the way down to the Alps tour, which is the third level. He didn't even go to the second league, to the Challenge Tour. He had to go all the way down. So he tried to qualify again from the Alps Tour and made it actually. But in that year, in the first year we worked together in 2017, when he learned Aimpoint, I actually had the chance to visit him, go with him for 1 or 2 events on the European Tour already where he got invites, And back then I remember Lukas was like one of the very few players who used Aimpoint.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, Lukas is probably the most educated aim pointer in the planet of all the players, because I think I taught him everything I know about aim point, and he's really, really good at it.
That was like my next topic. I was gonna. So you led there nicely, but take us through. You're just talking about, how do you say his last name? Nemetz.
Nemetz, yeah.
Nemetz, yeah. That's probably I'd say the biggest reward, right? When you take somebody, it'd be like here taking somebody from college up to the PGA Tour, being there from the beginning. Like, talk about his transformation, and if you don't mind getting into some of the details of the technique and biomechanics that you guys have worked on.
Yeah. First, like I said, I worked with Lukas because he had a putting problem. I taught him aim point first, and then we worked on putting mechanics. He had like his forward swing time was all over the place. Like he would like swing between, I would say, 0.27 seconds forward swing time till 0.43 or something. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but
what are you using for putting? Or do you have Putt Lab? I saw you were a Capto guy as well. Like, what are you using for technology?
Well, back then when I worked with Lukas, I had the Putt Lab, but now I'm working with Capto. I enjoy Capto. I still use the Putt Lab if I have time and want to set it up, but I'm a Capto guy now, basically. Back then, I saw his forward swing time was really inconsistent, so we worked on getting a consistent forward swing time, which really helped his putting. He won the third level 2 event in Austria, actually, 6 weeks after we started working, which got him a really confidence boost. And then that's when he went up from top 5 in the end of the year and went to Challenge Tour. So he got in the next tour with that. And yeah, then he started to work on his golf swing as well. I mean, Lucas is known to be a fantastic ball striker. He's not the tallest guy. He's probably 1 meter 73 centimeters. What would that be in inches? That would be 5'8", probably, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. He's not the biggest guy, not the tallest guy on the planet, to put it this way. But he's an awesome ball striker, and it's always been. But what Lucas always had in his golf swing was he tends to get really steep on the ball. So we had attack angle issues in the beginning.
What was he running at?
He was probably like 7-8 down, like with a 7-iron, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem wasn't even that it was steep, it was inconsistent. He had low point problems as well. That was due to two things, I would say. Number one was because he was losing a lot of arm structure in the downswing, getting very narrow.
What was his shot shape? If you don't, for the listeners, like what was his stock ball flight?
That's a good one too. In the beginning, we start working, his stock shot would be a draw, but he would play the shape he needed for every pin. So if the pin was right, he would fade. If the pin was left, he would hit a draw. If he had a dog leg left, he would hit a draw. If he had a dog leg left to right, he would hit it left to right.
Okay.
And that's basically the first thing I took away from him, is playing different shot shapes. I just said, okay, we're going to go focus on one shot, and that's going to be a fade. And I just saw a fade would be the opposite of his pattern at the moment, and it would be probably the easiest for him to develop a long-term range. So we said, okay, let's hit a fade, and let's stick to it. I said, I want you to hit fades 95% of the time, and only if it's needed to hit the opposite. A little bit like Dustin Johnson, yeah? Like, what did he say? Like, how do you hit a draw? I don't hit a draw.
Yeah, exactly.
but what do you do if you want to hit a draw? I don't hit a draw. So isn't that what Dustin said? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And,
how did you convince him of that? Like, talk us through that process, because did you do some testing, or you just figured that was the most repeatable pattern for what you saw in the pieces of his swing, or what?
Yeah, I mean, watching his ball flights and watching his fade and draw, I thought that was probably the best dispersion, or the closest dispersion he had. Lucas was never a guy who had a problem with double crosses or something like that when the fade. So for me, it was given it has to be a fade. And I explained it basically like Decade basically says it, like Scott Farnsworth says it, basically like if you have two shot shapes, basically you have two different dispersion patterns, And that made sense for him, And yeah, we started tracking that, got involved with Spider Golf because, maybe Cedric, then he's from Spider. He's also import instructor. So that's how I got to know him and getting the data from Spider and where he actually has his, where he puts all his shots, give us a good idea where he's actually hitting the balls.
Spell that for the listeners. Spider,
like
Spider.
the spider.
Oh, Spider Golf.
Sorry, it's my Austrian accent. It's
okay. No, I'm curious about it.
I come from the country where Arnold Schwarzenegger comes from. I say, I'll be back. The Spider Golf app, like the little animal. Okay, I can very recommend it. And we worked a lot with that and getting an idea how his dispersions are. And yeah, we saw the fade patterns by far the best. The only thing we had to figure out is how to get the steepness away and to get a more consistent low point. That is when I got involved with force plates, 2017. I mean, I started the whole stuff with force plates, the quant stuff and the swing catalyst and and whatever that was out there already. Mm-hmm. But I think I always thought it's a difference. It's always a big difference if you study something or if you actually own the devices and can see it yourself. So I think I learned the most with actually having devices like that. And not only
which one did you get first when you guys were working together?
I got the Smart to Move. Actually, I'm using them up till today. I'm just thinking about switching to the new 3D mobile ones they brought out. I tested them last week in Munich, and they're awesome.
I just tested those a few weeks ago too. Very, very good.
Very good plates, and I'm just thinking about actually getting some. But we back then with Lucas, I started with the 1D plates, and basically I saw that Lucas had like a little spin out move, losing the pressure on his heel early in the downswing, getting his diagonal line shifted too much to the left early, and could get the pressure. He gets
in his lead heel too soon. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's going on his trail foot. He got too early in the toes, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and he didn't get the pressure fast enough to the lead leg, so he was like sitting on the right leg and spinning out, basically. And that's when he drop the club really far inside and really close to his body. That's how he got steep,
Wow, that's interesting how you could hit down that much with that pattern.
Yeah, absolutely, because he got so super steep. And if you look at the swing now, you still see the tendency. Mm-hmm. But obviously, there's always somebody looking at him every week and saying, don't do it or go wider there or do this. We're working on, I think, on very good stuff to keep him developing and also keeping his swing functional. And it got more and more consistent over the years. I mean, when Lucas was on the Alps Tour and Challenge Tour, his ball striking was good. But when he got into strong winds, heavy gales, he would start to get problems with the ball flight. He would have too much spin still and would struggle. And now, like the last 2 years, he's playing on the DP World Tour, and he's really learned how to get control over his ball flight in heavy winds. Like when in Abu Dhabi, sometimes you have heavy winds, or sometimes in Great Britain. And that's now he can handle that much better.
What did you do with him? Like, be a little more specific, like detail wise, to start working on improving that earlier pressure shift, like anything you could share, like drill wise, or what are his kind of feel keys now?
Well, first of all, I had to make him aware where he wants to be at what time. So what Lucas had, he had a little dip going down with his body. So his pelvis actually was going down and not up. So we always worked on getting his pelvis up and falling left,
Ah, yeah. Yep.
Especially something we've been doing lately a lot. Maybe in the beginning, when we started to work 5 years ago, we just called it right and left, Now we call it up and away, and now we call it down and left,
Yes.
And I got much more specific where I want him to put the pressure and that kind of stuff over the years. Exercise we really love to do with him is to put some alignment sticks in his belt loops, take a backswing, and he has to hit the ball without hitting his hands into the stick, like the one of the, just basically slowing his pelvis down a little bit from the popping out too early. We always combine that with a little feeling of forward flexion in the upper body in the late backswing, because he tends to get a little bit overextended sometimes with his upper body. I call this the lady bump dance from the 80s, when you were like dancing in the discotheque and your pelvis was moving like left, boom, like this,
Yes.
So I call it the lady bump move. Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna have to start using video on this thing.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
So we were doing the lady bump. Okay. So maybe if this show gets 10,000 likes or something, 1 million views, I will actually do a video about the lady bump. Okay. So,
perfect. You should do that.
Yeah, okay. So that is a feeling like we worked on getting his pelvis moving early left inflection, slowing down his hips as a feeling, getting his arms faster down and not overextending his trail arm, basically. In the beginning, he had a lot of wrist hinge, a lot of
radial deviation.
He has a strong grip, which matches the whole system. Mm-hmm. But still, I'm not really a fan of it. He knows it. I tried to trick him actually for a while to tell him, okay, you need a B shot, like a go-to pattern if your swing doesn't work, and I want you to underload actually and swing more laid off. And so actually I got him to practice that move during the season while he was playing a normal swing, and actually found out after a while, actually I like underloading and being laid off,
Yes.
And so I tricked him a little bit back then. And yeah, lately he just came a little more cross, and it goes back and forth, but I'm just trying to keep everything under control, keeping his first part of his backswing, his pelvis high, his head to stay high.
That's the key, isn't it? Right? It's like that part doesn't, if you don't do that, you can't get to the forward side at the right time, and the system doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the least talked about thing in golf. I mean, I think many amateurs or golfers have heard, okay, you have to get in your lead side early, or you have to get on your lead side at some stage. Basically, all of them get in the lead side too late, and nobody understands how to get into the lead side. And I think that one of the problems is people think it's just a line. You stay on the same height, The pelvis always stays on the same height, but actually nobody's aware your pelvis actually goes up and down. I had this video on my Instagram, which actually got I think over 1 million views. I did a video actually about a driver hack where that said, okay, listen, this is, I like, if you know my Instagrams, I always like to start somehow entertaining, like, I'm going to show you how to hit 300 yards and more,
Yeah.
Like that, like really engaging and funny. And then I tell, okay, I want you to go on your toes, away, down, and I say up, away, down, hit balls, And actually, to be honest, if I do that drill that's the best way how I can hit balls. I mean, it's like I ramp up my verticals, my ground fathers so brutally that I really have a lot of clap at speed. And
that's awesome.
and I did this video. And I got so much love and hate at the same time. You know, when you have 1 million views on a video, I don't know however I would get 1 million views. You know, I thought, okay, this is going to be like 5,000 views or 4,000 like normal, but this got 1 million. And I never knew it. There can be so many hate comments. And then I actually saw how people actually didn't understand what the pelvis does in the golf swing, because I really made many people think, you know. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things is the pelvis moving up in the early backswing. Yeah?
Absolutely. That was one of the things I was going to ask you about is your social media, because you're like crushing it in Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. And then obviously with Instagram now, you're, you know, getting more views even in the States. Talk a little bit about, you know, how now you're on TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm on TikTok. I don't do a ton, but I like posting players and swings, but I'm not dancing in front of the camera.
Okay. Well, maybe you should. No,
maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. How did that start? Because your YouTube channel's killing it. I know your Instagram's got like twice as many followers than me.
Well, the thing is, I started in 2016 doing Facebook lives. You know, when the live function came out on Facebook, I had a friend from my youth who I played golf with in my early days, who actually became who was a social media expert, and he was specialized in Facebook and back then. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to help you to build up your Facebook." So we started doing lives. I basically just got in front of the camera and talked about swing tips, and I got really popular in the German-speaking countries. And don't forget, I was really fat that time. So it was like people looking at me, not looking very athletic at all, but actually giving good tips. So I couldn't hardly breathe when I was talking, but they were good tips, you know. But I got really popular because the way I looked, or because I was doing it. I don't know why. It got really popular. And then actually, then I went to I remember that in 2017, I think it was 17. Yeah. I went to one of the Smart to Move educations in Holland again. It always starts in Holland. No, that's it.
I got to go to Holland.
Yeah. It's just reminding me, it always starts in Holland is good for me. Okay. But then I had an education, and Gregory Lebras, the CEO from Smart to Move, said, "Hey, you have to meet this guy, this French guy." And actually there was a big, tall, good-looking French guy. He called himself Mon Coach de Golf, which is French, and which means my golf coach. Yeah, Mon Coach de Golf. Yeah, he had this huge thing going on, selling online courses in French. You know, and he had like thousands of customers, and like really was earning a lot of money, I think, and really being really, really popular in the France. Yeah, and then Gregory said, "Hey, you have to talk to him." So I talked to him, and he said, "Yeah, he wanted to do a DVD about golf." And then he found out it's so expensive to do one, so he tried to learn it himself, how to film, how to do all this stuff. And he bought a lot of online courses. And while he was doing online courses and spending a lot of money, he said, "I'm an idiot. Why am I not doing online courses? And then I'm selling my golf content, you know?" And that's what he did. And I just loved the idea. I thought, hey, that's clever. You know, you only can give a certain amount of lessons. You're going to give a certain amount of lessons. I mean, what we have 40 hours, 50 hours a week that we can teach. At that time, I was having people coming in from Germany and Switzerland already then, you know, for golf lessons. And I had a full book, you know, and I couldn't give more lessons than I had, you know. And I thought it's pretty smart to actually give your knowledge to other people in a digital way. And that's something I could really imagine doing myself. So I said, okay, I'm going to start with this. I'm going to build up a brand. I'm going to try to get bigger, get more known. And then I'm going to start doing online courses and doing that kind of stuff. And then I said, okay, to get famous, I have to get, at least in Austria and Germany, I have to go with YouTube. So basically found the password for my old YouTube channel, which I created in 2009, I think, which I already had like 5 funny private videos on it or something. So I started that again. And actually, I had no idea how to film. I had no idea how camera works. I didn't know how it works with audio. So what I did is I went to photography schools. I bought a pretty decent camera, bought a Canon 80D back then, which is one of the better, I would say, better vlogging cameras. I learned how to use the lenses correctly, how to work with light and with the mic and everything. And then I started to produce my first videos for YouTube. I learned editing first on really simple on the MacBook. So very simple editing, very simple stuff. And then actually I did like 10 or 15 films. I wanted to upload them. And then I said, no, I cannot do it. I hate them. They're so bad. They're so bad.
I did the same thing. Yeah. I started my YouTube channel and did a Golf Guru show, 2009, 2010, where we were coming up.
Yeah.
And I had just a little I had a flip cam. That's all I did. That's what I did mine on. Didn't spend much money. It's crazy though.
Yeah, but then at some stage I said I uploaded my first videos, but then I found out, hey, it's not only uploading the videos, it's the thumbnails. You have to do thumbnails. The thumbnails have to be engaging. Oh, you have to do titles. Oh, titles have to be engaging. Oh, you have to do a description. Descriptions have to be somehow engaging. There is
with the right words, right? The SEO, there has to be the certain AdWords in there.
Oh boy, I studied so much. I got a YouTube expert, a photography expert, a film expert, and I did all by myself back then. And I grew my channel from like 200 subs to like 6,000 or something. And then like Corona came, and in Corona, actually there was like, people had more time. And I got involved with a student actually who approached me for a golf lesson who was from Microsoft. And I asked him, hey, can you help me with that kind of stuff? And he said, no, I'm too busy. And then when Corona came, he said, listen, I changed my schedule a little bit and I have a little more time. How far is your project going? I said, I need help. Please help me. And so I got another guy, Peter, who's actually from my national team days still, who's also who works for a really huge company, who are involved also with a lot of marketing and stuff like that. And he also got in the boat, and us three, we started to build up my YouTube channel, to build up my brand. My brand name was Progressive Golf. We said, no, we're going to go to Bausek Golf. So we changed that, changed the logos, did everything. And then we started actually really filming the videos very properly and really scripting them really properly. I was scripting videos back then, but now it's like this. If I produce a YouTube video in German, let's say put it this way, a long form video, we talk about the topic. And you have to understand, Daniel is a beginner and Peter is a very good golfer. So I always hook Peter with my ideas. He said, that's the best thing I've ever heard. But Daniel, who's your everyday golfer, we call him your average Joe, we call him. He sometimes doesn't get hooked with our ideas. He says, what are you talking about?
That's a great audience for you.
This is not interesting. So when we have video topic ideas now, I have to go to Peter first and I say, Peter, how are we going to sell I got this idea. Peter says, that's a cool idea. Let's do it this and this and this way. I said, okay, we have to do a pitch in front of Daniel. Daniel has to buy the idea. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. So I do a pitch. I say, okay, listen, Daniel, we got this and this and this. So I do like the first 15 seconds of the video. And Daniel says, sorry, guys, I'm out. I left the video. Said, no, Daniel, we can do it better. So we come back and then we do it until Daniel says, okay, this is interesting. So then we start planning the content and how to get it very simple. My idea always was, the knowledge is out there,
Sure.
Like 10 years ago, I think we were all guessing. Many of us were guessing. But nowadays, if you want to know stuff, you can learn stuff. There's the Crons, other great guys like the Chris Comos, you can learn a lot about golf nowadays. And I think the biggest thing is, that makes me special is that we really try to transfer that complicated language in a very simple language style, so an entertaining style, so people can actually understand what's going on. So I'm trying to educate people. I don't want people to just say, okay, I want you to put the ball there. I say, you got to put the ball there because if you do this and this and that, this and this and that will happen. So now he understands. Now it's actually the why. So I give him the why. So, and I'm trying to do it in an entertaining way. So when we script a video, we're trying to do it entertaining, and we're trying to get pictures, we get out sledgehammers and I don't know what. And
when you say script the video, like, do you actually write it down? Do you type it out? Do you what does that look like? What's that process look like? Because I think that's super interesting.
When we decided what the content is and we had decided how we're going to communicate it to the people, I have to we don't film it yet. I have to take my iPhone. I have to film it myself, just myself in my living room, basically, or in my driving range. Then I have to edit it, actually, because if I just put the raw material in front of my boys, they will say it's not engaging. So I have to at least edit the raw material, just the trial, basically. Mm-hmm. And that I upload to it's not completely, but I edit it. I do the little I do the little cuts already and some little B-roll stuff already, so they get the idea how it will feel like. And then I upload it to the boys and say, listen, boys, this is how it's going to look like. And they said, when Daniel says, no, you lost me at minute 2.30. Say, why did I lose you? Because you said this and this and this didn't make sense to me, And I said, okay, what can I do differently? And say, yeah, say this and this and this way. And then I refilm it. And when basically Daniel is happy and Peter is happy, we meet if you have time. And Daniel has also, we have very 4K cameras, really high expensive cameras. And we meet, and Daniel has one, I have one, and we actually meet and we do the filming together. And Peter stands there and does the wording and helps me. Hey, this was not engaging enough. I mean, we're not doing this on every video, but if you say we're having a hero video where we think this is going to be a very good video from topic, then the whole team is there and we film it. And I probably had 7 trial shoots before we even pushed the real camera button. And I remember we did a golf video called I don't know how you would translate it. It would be like the careless golf swing, the swing, we call it the careless golf swing in German, like the swing where you don't have any headache at all. Yeah. The headacheless golf swing.
A free swing. You're saying careless?
Yeah, careless. It's like you don't have to bother anymore. You're just going to hit the ball, whatever you do. It's so simple.
Unconscious swing.
Yeah. It's basically that. Basically, the thing is, the idea was that people who don't play golf a lot, or if they have, let's say, they haven't played golf for a year and they have to play with the boss next Sunday, and they want to learn just to hit the bloody thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Just on the fairway, not the long shot. What can I do? And that's basically we did this version in German. I think the whole filming, editing process, the planning took us like 50 hours or something. It was like insane. It took us like 6 months to plan this video.
How long was the video?
9 minutes, 8 minutes, I think.
How did it come out? Was it received?
It was received very well, but it wasn't super viral. So I was a little bit disappointed. But also then we discussed why wasn't it super viral? Because probably not everybody thought it's his video, probably. That's what we figured out. But I was just saying, sometimes we take a lot of time planning this stuff. And since, let's put it this way, and since the German market, is limited to the language German, and I think I have a message to give to the whole world, about golf.
So English is coming.
Yeah, I think I'm really smart. I thought I was the best golf player in the world.
Yes.
At first I thought I was the best golf player in the world. Now I think I'm the smartest golf player.
You're not very confident, I can tell you.
No, I'm just joking a little bit, okay?
I understand. You got to think that. I love that.
But I think I'm not too bad. I mean, I think I have a lot of good stuff to give to the world, and especially in a way people have never heard about it. It has to go global. So I started to do English videos as well. The problem with that is I got 2 young children. I'm married. I work like 50 hours in the golf club. I have a tour player and other tour players. I have to travel. I have to do a YouTube channel in German, which is like a whole job by itself. Mm-hmm. And then I had to say, okay, what am I going to do with my global international content? I said, okay, let's start doing at least shorts, these reels in English, because you can film them rather fast compared to a YouTube video. You can do it with your iPhone. You can do it with simple editing. Yeah, and I started doing that actually like 1.5 years ago. I started on Instagram. I had like 3,000 followers or 2,000 followers back then, like 1.5 years ago. I started to post in English, and only in English. I didn't do any German content anymore. And the videos were not engaging at all. I had like 2,000 views, 2,500, and I was really disappointed. And then in November, I had more time. I said, okay, now listen, now you're going to do a video, which you're going to edit like one of your YouTube videos. You're going to put drone shots, proper B-roll, different angles. You're going to be engaging. You're going to be funny, maybe a little bit exaggerated. And got out this video, TikTok actually. Yeah, I just put on the videos and then nothing happened really. On Instagram, nothing happened. On TikTok, nothing happened. Nothing happened. And then I put out this video.
You got 25K now.
Nearly 26, I think. Yeah. So,
25.9. Yeah, there you go. 26K.
Yeah. Well, what happened is I had like 3,500 in November of 2022, and I had like 150 subscribers on TikTok. And this one video went viral, and I got like a couple thousand in a couple of days, new subscribers on TikTok. Then I uploaded the same video on Instagram. Nothing happened. Just the same, nothing, the same video. Did another video on TikTok. It went viral. Instagram, same video. Nothing happened. Next video on TikTok went viral. Instagram, nothing happened.
Everybody's on TikTok nowadays.
And I thought, so I went like 5,000, 7,000, 10,000, 15,000 subscribers on TikTok. And suddenly I remember I did this up, down, away swing video for TikTok and just uploaded it the same moment on Instagram because I always did it 1 day delayed. I always wanted to know how does it perform on TikTok before I put it on Instagram so I could react if I had something to change in the editing. And suddenly I put them at the same time and both of them went off like crazy. I think this one video has like over 1 million now on Instagram and like 850,000 on TikTok. And that's when suddenly all my videos started to go viral now on Instagram. And I went like from, I think that was beginning of March. I had like 3,500 subscribers. So I had like 3,500 subscribers in 11 years on Instagram. And what do we have now? End of June? Yeah, now I have 26,000. So I'm just shy of 26,000. So I gained like 23,000 followers in the last 2 months, basically. And it's going off the roof now. And TikTok slowed a little bit down. Actually, Instagram took over at TikTok. Funny enough, I started to get an English-speaking YouTube channel as well. The problem with that is not English-speaking people on my German YouTube. If you get English-speaking subscribers on your German channel and they don't understand what you're saying, they will click off after a couple of seconds. They say, I don't understand what you're saying, and they click off. So that's a very bad sign for the algorithm. So please, whatever you do, listeners, do not subscribe to my German YouTube channel except you understand German, okay?
Exactly.
But I started with an English-speaking YouTube channel, and I'm doing all the shorts now on the English YouTube channel. And I promise if I find some time very soon, we're going to start with the long-form content in English as well. So we're going to probably take my best videos from the German channel and dub them, do a dub version. I also think YouTube is going to offer it soon, that we can put an extra audio over it. That would be a game changer, of course. But at the moment, they don't have this feature yet. But I'm building up my English-speaking YouTube channel, so you can help by subscribing, everybody. Yeah, and I will start to produce English-speaking content in a while. That's where we now, what's happening now. So a little mix of both.
How has that helped your coaching? It has to help your communication, right? Because I know I've found that even doing the podcast or just doing videos in general, as long as we've done that, I feel like it helps us to kind of drill down on our language and how we explain things to a wide variety of golfers. Have you found that as well? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest problem I had when I was speaking in front of people, for example, I was saying, like probably now in this podcast, but when I'm in front of a camera now and I know I have to edit it, I just don't see the word, because if you cut out 55 in a video, you stop saying it after a while. So it helped me a lot speaking in front of people, but also really helped, of course, being with my team, discussing everything, every topic really thoroughly, getting good ideas, good pictures, creating images in the mind of the people. That really, I think, helped my coaching. When people come to me for my driver clinics or whatever, they say they loved it so much because it's such a clear instruction. It's super complicated, but it's not super complicated because I made it so clear. They know what they have to work on. And that's actually exactly the reason why we are planning, or we are just about now planning an English version of my driver courses. We're doing an online course in English with the filming. I'm already now in German. We're editing it now for the German market. And as soon as this is out, we're going to film it in English. So you can listen to my English-speaking driver versions. I'm going to teach you how to hit a driver 300 yards and more in English soon. Okay. Yeah, that was one of your notes that you sent me. It was like that was going to be your main focus with your team. Like, do you have instructors working for you, or are you by yourself at the club? Are you talking about your team being your digital team and your marketing team?
No, I'm actually working in the physical life in my club. I'm working alone. I have colleagues, but they're not part of my golf school. Even though we have a good friendship and communicate really nicely together, but they're not in my team. And I got this digital team. We're really focusing on the digital side, to be honest. I mean, as I said, there's only a certain amount of lessons I can give as a person, and I'm pretty full at the moment. I started to offer my courses now, so because people are coming in from Switzerland, Germany, they're sometimes even flying in from England, which makes it challenging sometimes to speak English in a German course, but I had it once or twice, yeah. But I'm trying to do more courses and less individual lessons and getting more online stuff. The main focus of what we're trying to do is actually trying to be available for every golfer in the world. I mean, we're in a world now where everything is digital, right? And we got the artificial intelligence. We have the classes are coming, the provision classes are coming. It's so much stuff going on. And I want to be right there as an early adopter, to be right there when I can teach somebody on the other side of the globe, whether it's me in person or my digital version. I'm sure I can help every golfer. And that's basically what we are trying to do now at the moment, to build up products that can help golfers of all skill levels.
So we've had, it's amazing how similar our paths are and how we've kind of come on different sides of the globe. What advice, and I'm sure you get this question a lot from young coaches, especially in your country, is like, what advice are you giving the young coaches that want to get better at teaching? Like, how are they going to navigate? Because it's such a different landscape now, I think, than when we came up, in the early 2000s. Because you've done so many certifications, like, what ones do you think have influenced your teaching the most? And we've mentioned a few, but what are you going to tell that young coach?
Well, I think as a young coach, what I tell young coaches is they have to work in different departments, developing their skills as a coach. I mean, I think the number one has to be communication. If you are a bad communicator, whatever you believe in, or whatever you teach, you're not going to be successful. If people don't like you, you're not going to be successful. If you're way too complicated explaining stuff, they don't going to like you. So that's probably communication is number one, I would say, what they have to learn and really focus on. Number two is, I think, as I mentioned before, there are no secrets anymore on the planet, or no big secrets anymore. So study the golf swing, study whatever you want to teach and become good at it. Ask questions. Don't take everything for granted. There's so many myths out there. If you think about it, they make absolutely no sense. And just yesterday, I had a 1.5 hour conversation with Jean-Paul Fernandez from Smart to Move, the biomechanic guy from Smart to Move, who's such a clever guy. And I had a couple of questions, of course, because of the Smart to Move plates, but also about some biomechanical questions I had. And it's just amazing that I learned something new again, It made me crazy last night, And I had to think about a couple of things I was teaching, if I could maybe do things differently again, or maybe if what I believe in is correct. So I always question myself, and you should do it as a coach. Always question yourself: is that what you're teaching? Is it legit? Is it the only way? Is it correct? Be data driven. I mean, I'm not saying don't lose the feeling and stuff like that, but be data driven. There is data out there. Learn the data, then you will understand everything better, and you have a much easier time to communicate with the people. Then don't be lazy. You have to stay up at nights. You have to look at the golf swings you filmed during the day. Find a mentor. Find people you can learn from.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common message, isn't it? Right? It's like there's no shortcuts. Modeling is still important. Shadowing is still important.
Absolutely.
And it's, as I always say, there's no excuse to be stupid in this industry nowadays. Like, it's all right there in front of you. You just got to go do the work.
Exactly. Yeah.
One, all the certifications we've talked about. You've talked about TPI. We've talked about Aimpoint. We can go on and on about that. But I was interested in what you learned and how you were influenced by Dr. Kwan, because you're level 1 and level 2 certified, as I've done a lot of research and work with Kwan as well, and Mike Adams' certification.
Actually, I had Dr. Yang Hu Kwan coming over to Austria in 2016. I saw some online stuff from him, and I thought, a very smart guy, and I only understand 10% of what he's saying.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a huge language barrier there, probably between you guys.
I would say it was the language barrier. It was just, I had just no idea about biomechanics. I mean,
I understand.
I was working with the 3D vest, with the AMM, with the vest, but he was with the force plates and that stuff, and I knew he was good, and I had to meet him. So I asked him to come over to Austria. I organized a huge seminar conference where we had 50 people coming all over Europe to my home place in Austria. We went to a seminar hotel, and he was not even a golf course, and there were 50 people coming down from Denmark. We even had guys from Colombia coming down, When they actually said they were coming, I thought they were fake in the beginning. They why should people from Colombia be coming, Dr. Kwan came, we had 50 people coming from all over Europe. It was a huge thing, and I got to spend time with him, having dinner with him and breakfast and that kind of stuff. And actually, I could ask him every question I wanted to ask him. One of the biggest eye openers was for me back then that sway is not a bad thing, because we all were like, oh, don't sway in the backswing, don't move your hips to the away from the target. And actually, the first thing he showed me was sway as much as you can, and in the early downswing, basically.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, in the early backswing, sway as much as you can. And actually, I tried it, and actually, I increased my club head speed like 7-8 miles within one shot. And I said, "Oh my God, there's something going on." Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the frontal plane. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The shot. Yeah, he's great. He's great. And it was nice to learn about all the interesting stuff about the moment and how the vectors work and what an impulse is, that kind of stuff. And actually, I had him come back a second time a year later because I didn't understand it the first time. And I have to give this to Dr. Kwan. He made this course more simpler and simpler himself. He got more into the application, got a little less formulas now in his program, which got it easier for people like golf professionals to follow along better. And I think it's a must-have education. I mean, I think every coach has to understand what a moment arm is, and how the vectors influence the body rotation in the frontal plane and all this kind of stuff, and how club head speed is produced. And that really influenced me a lot. And I recommend, if you have a chance to listen to Kwan, do that. Then there was another shocker for me, and that was actually in Holland. In Holland, that was the same seminar.
It always starts in Holland.
Actually, I think it was actually that's no, actually it was not. It was actually in Munich. It was in Munich this time. I met Mike Adams, and the funny thing was, I met Mike Adams the second time in life, because when I was a junior golfer, when I was 17 years old, I played the Orange Bowl. I played the Orange Bowl down in
Miami.
In Miami.
Yep.
Yeah, I did actually well protect then. I was I finished 11th or something, and after that we went to PGA West, where Mike Adams was located back then, and we had a couple of days training with him back with our Austrian team, and back then Mike was starting with this test, with the lever arm, with the short arm and that kind of stuff, and he told me the laws. Yeah, and he told me my arm is short, and that's why I have to swing flat and that kind of stuff. Because I thought it was pretty interesting. Then I met Mike Adams 30 years later. I mean, I got older, he got older. He definitely got older. And, a great guy, great guy. And, he started with this bioswing dynamic stuff,
I've seen it
all
many
the tests,
times.
the front posters and the side-on golfers and all these tests, he did. And basically putting, people in a category about looking at their bodies, how it works, and then saying, okay, you're this kind of golfer, you should be loading more on your left side, you should be loading more on your right side and whatever. Yeah, and that was a shocker for me. I mean, I had a very clear picture about how a good golf swing should look like. And now comes Mike Adams and destroyed everything within a morning, basically. And seeing actually it works, And I said to Mike, actually, listen, Mike, there's something to it. There's some stuff going on we're going to think about, and I don't believe everything you say, to be honest, Mike, but he's pretty darn good. I mean, I would say I do the screens with every person who comes to me. I give an overview of what I would expect him to do. I might not maybe change the grips like radical as he would do maybe sometimes, maybe change the posts to radical or whatever. But if I look at the data and I see stuff happening, it explains to me why stuff is happening. And sometimes I see a window of opportunity, how you can coach a guy better or help a guy with a golf swing. So Mike Adams really was a big shock for me. A big shock for me. I had to really think about it. But there's one guy I really have to talk about, and because he really means a lot to me. I met him personally once, and I had him a couple of times online, and I also worked with him online, and that's Scott Cowks.
Yeah, that's my guy too. Love Scott.
Scott is a great guy. I think he has a very similar background like me, also working with the 3D systems and stuff like that, and cross plates. And I met him in England just before I had my surgery, 2019. Yeah, and the funny thing back then was I really could understand what he was saying, and he had such a beautiful way to communicate. And what I loved about Scott is not that I learned that much stuff, which I never heard about, but it was the way he put it together in the system, and I gave it names and patterns and how he thought about the things, calling it underloading patterns and this and that. Scott, and he was on your podcast twice already.
Yes, and I've had him. I've done all his certifications, and had the same reaction.
Yeah.
I understood the language, but it's now I understand why what we're teaching works, right? And then how to kind of pivot into different patterns. And I always still say it's the best full swing certification out there.
Yeah, and I also think the probably best two podcasts ever that exist on this planet were on your channel with Scott Cox.
Oh, thank you.
The both times when Scott was on your podcast, I think Scott was awesome, and you have to listen. So, guys, go back in the history of the Golf Guru Show and find, talk to Scott Cox. I think Scott is absolutely brilliant. And I also had the chance 3 years ago. I asked him, hey, listen, after I had my surgery done, I lost all this weight. I said, hey, listen, I have to get my golf back in shape again, and I'm struggling with the driver still. And I know what I'm doing wrong, and I know what I should be doing, but I want to know from you which approach you would take. What would you do first? Not like I knew I had all these problems, but what would you do first? And actually, Scott got me my arm structure going really nicely, which improved my rotation stuff. I worked the first time in life with the black ball between my arms.
Smart ball.
Smart ball, sorry.
Yep.
Smart ball.
Shout out to Martin Chuck.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great tool. That's something that really helped me working with Scott and also learning from Scott. And when Scott talks, I listen. Absolutely, definitely listen. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great stuff, man. Are you traveling? Are you traveling with your guys? I know you got your main dude, but how many guys are out there, and how much are you actually on site with them?
I have one guy on the DP World Tour, a couple of guys on the third level tours. But my main guy I focus on at the moment is Lucas Nimitz, as I mentioned before. I travel 5 times a year with him, I would say. Actually, I'm going to spend the whole week at the Scottish Open in, 2 weeks' time, the Rolex event, just before the British Open. I'm going to spend with him the whole week, yeah, which is cool. It's just really, really intense, to be honest, when I go with Lucas, because I'm not sure if people know how much these guys actually are working. These top guys are working. You see them on the television playing, shooting 67s, 65s, earning all the money. What these guys are working is insane. It's insane. I've seen third level tours. I've seen second level tours. The biggest thing, of course, on these high level tours and the DP World Tour, PGA Tours, they have quality balls. Pro V1s, Callaways, whatever they want.
Yeah,
they have all the buses
playing.
there with all their whatever they're playing. They have all the buses there. They come by and say, hey, are you happy with your 3-iron this week? Should I have a look at the lie angle? You want me to put some extra lead in the toe or something? It's insane, especially Lucas is affiliated with Titleist, and I'm also affiliated with Titleist as an ambassador, basically. And it's amazing what they are doing at these events. Lucas says, I need this club bent 2 degrees to this direction. 5 minutes later, he has it. It's done. It's easy.
I think a good topic, which I ask a lot of tour coaches, is what's that week look like? Do you have it planned out? And what are you doing with your player, on site? I guess it probably depends on what their form is, right? How much work you actually have to do. But talk me through that week of what your plan is for your player.
So basically, when I go with Lucas, I try to arrive Monday at lunchtime the latest. We normally start with hitting golf balls, just having a quick swing check. We look at his TrackMan numbers. We look at his force plate numbers, if I'm able to travel with the force plate. We look at hand speed stuff. We look at hack motion stuff, just to see where he's at, see where the energy is going, where he's releasing it. Just like the whole picture of what he's doing currently at that moment. Normally, when I see Lucas, I haven't seen him for 3 weeks or something, or maybe a month. I'm just trying to see where he's at compared to the last time. Obviously, we have online coaching, and I coach him online. But being able to measure him is also very good. So we do that in the very beginning. Then we try to get in a very fast practice round, first 9 holes normally. We talk a lot about the landing zones. We talk about the lines of the tee with wind, headwind, tailwind, all from the different directions. And we decide what's the correct line on that certain day if that certain wind occurs, So we got a line for if he hits it 300 meters plus, and we have a line if he can't hit it over 240 meters, because the wind changes. That can be very different. And the reason doing that is because you don't want to be surprised when you play a perfect practice round with perfect weather and you get on the first tee, on the fifth tee on the first day, and you suddenly got a completely different golf hole. You don't want to be surprised. You want to know, okay, that's the line. I'm confident. I know how wide it is there. I know what club I'm going to hit. I know what shape I'm going to hit. We look at that very closely. I always walk also on the sides looking, how is the rough? Are there any other dangers, any slopes where it could have stupid kicks into an OB or something? I'm making him aware of little problems. We look at the greens, look at the short-sided pins. We look where the bailout zones are, places where we don't want to be. We also look at stuff where the spectators are going to be, how the grass is going to be there where the spectators are.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So that's something actually Lucas made me aware of, and we also look at that. How's the grass going to be like if people run over that area, and how's the shot going to be on the short-sided pin there and stuff like that. And so that's what we do a lot. And then we basically, when I work with Lucas, there are no long breaks. We go there, have a quick lunch, 20 minutes, out again, check his putting. We always work on aim point first, normally. I mean, an interesting story maybe is when every time these boys come out on the DP World Tour, and there are several aim pointers, as I told you. The first aim pointer who gets to normally puts out a little Sharpie or something and puts marks on the side of the putting green with 1%, 1.5%, 2.5%, 3%,
Nice,
so,
yeah.
So actually the players actually are looking for those little Sharpie marks, and basically that's where all the players are helping each other out with that. So that's the first thing he does when we do putting. He calibrates his feet. Sometimes, he uses different inlays in his shoes, different shoes, and then it feels different.
Yes, that's so smart.
Yeah. So we get him dialed in on that first. Then we do a technique check. I like to just check his path in the backswing. He tends to take it inside a lot. We always see that he stays in a certain corridor. I always try him not to swing it more than 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees to the right. I'm okay with him not swinging it square, but I don't want him to swing it like 4 or 5 degrees to the right, which he sometimes does. I check his attack angle. He's a little steep sometimes on the putt. He hits it down a little bit, and I'm trying. We had a long progression now, switching him to a more like brush type stroke, which he's done really fine learning and really fine getting to the golf course now lately. If he putts bad, it's only because he gets back in his old habits, So we work on the brush type stroke a little bit. And the funny thing is, it's always the same thing. First we do the aim point stuff. Then we do he gets out the
Visio mat.
Yeah, we like the Visio, exactly, where you can see this putter head where it should be moving. That's basically just a little check. Then he gets out an arm lock putter. He has an arm lock putter. He doesn't use in tournament competition though. It doesn't play in play though. We do it for 2 reasons. Number one, in case we get a little severe putting problem at some stage, it's nothing we haven't done before. It's something he can do.
Backup.
It's just backup version, exactly. And the main thing we do is because it really promotes a brush type stroke feeling for him. So he does like a 10 putts with the arm lock putter, but he would never putt within the tournament. It's funny, but it's always there. It's always there. Yeah. So we do the exercise with everything. Then he gets in the stroke mechanics. Then I check his hand speed. I like to check with the cup too, because he tends to accelerate his hands sometimes through impact. So that gets problems with his capture speed. So we try to actually accelerate early and get him more get the speed going faster earlier, and then lose it basically through the impact zone, more or less. So you hit the ball and then it gets slower, not accelerate again. That's what we do a lot, and that really helps him. Then we try to vary on different capture speeds. I like to push him actually closer to 3 feet past the hole, 2 to 3 feet past the hole sometimes. He gets too defensive sometimes.
I was going to say, is that because of his dispersion being more short, tends to even out if he's got that kind of intention?
Exactly. He tends to be sometimes too soft on the putts, not aggressive enough, which is one thing I think is mindset. If you just drop it in with the last momentum, it doesn't feel aggressive. Number 2 is, it makes absolute sense. If a ball comes slow to the hole, that gravity will pull it in. Okay, I get that point. And we also taught that a lot in aim point, which makes sense. But I think on the tour, where the greens run on stim 12, 13, that kind of stuff sometimes, if you play with that weight, or let's just let it drop in with the last roll, the problem is you have to aim so far away from the hole sometimes on the 10-footer, you're not going to make them. So I like to have him a little bit more aggressive past the hole. I'd rather have him hit it 4 feet past by accident than leave it, just let it die past the hole. It's a mindset thing, and he putts much better if he putts more aggressive. And of course, he makes his 3-putt from time to time, because we all do. I always ask him, okay, was it a good 3-putt or a stupid 3-putt?
What's the difference?
A good 3-putt is, it sounds different. Every 3-putt is bad, but a good 3-putt is at least he was committed.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to hold a putt. It just accidentally hit it too far.
What's his putt ranking on the DP?
Oh, I would have to look it up.
That's all right. I didn't know if you knew it on top of your head. Is he like top 50?
When we met, I would say he was the worst professional golfer on the planet in putting.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he couldn't green read because he wears contact lenses, like with a lot of dioptrine, and he couldn't read the putts, and his putting stroke wasn't really good either.
Okay.
He will laugh when he hears this recording of this. Okay, I think he will be okay because he knows. Yeah, but we got him probably in the top 50, top 60, top 70 at some stages. I think last year. I mean, I'm not sure about this year. This year has been putting actually quite well. Actually, only 2 bad weeks, I think. But I would have to look up what his putting is. His long game hasn't been as good as it normally is because normally his driving is his strength. This year he was struggling a little bit with it. Little problems with his pressure shifts and that kind of stuff in the early season because he was injured. Had problems with his back and his latissimus dorsi, how it's called, the correct Latin name, yeah.
Yeah,
and his neck hurting and stuff like that. And he got a cold and some infections, and that you could see he wasn't feeling well physically. Didn't help his long game, and so we had to get this long game in shape again now. And I think we did a pretty good job last week in Munich at the BMW International Open. His training actually he was doing really well on the last round. He was like near close to top 25 again after having a so-so start, and a couple under par on that round. And then he on the 16th, which is a really tricky hole there down in Munich, in Eichenried, he had a short-sided pin, and he played an aggressive pitch over the water just to hit it 3 meters behind the pin, aggressive, and he hit it so nicely, and he hit the pin. It hit the pin in the air, and he bounced back into the water, and he made a double bogey, and then he lost it. But his game is getting there. And basically, the tournaments we're trying to keep this long game sharp again. Is really focus on his putting, and we do everything. We work on the chip shots. We really try to figure out what kind of standard chip technique is good out of these roughs that week. Is it more like a cut it across more? Do we want more like an out deviation hinge action through the ball? Do we want to have more like actually really elevated up and like more bunker shot type? Do we want to make a recall shot? Last week we played a couple of recalls in Munich. Yeah, and then we try to figure out what's the best way to work with that grass in that week, and we always check the numbers also in the wedging. We see what is the launch angle, what's the spin, what's the ball speed.
Are you using TrackMan or Quad when you're
TrackMan?
TrackMan, yeah. What are you finding when you're testing or looking at his shots around the green as far as angle of attack and launch? Like for a stock shot, what are you finding? Are you finding a lot? How much down is he hitting?
Well, let's put it this way. We were working on this say 30, 40, 50 yard shots this week. He came in 40 degrees down. It went all over the place. He popped out and went nicely and then popped out again. It was not very consistent. And we tried to get him down to probably towards closer to 8 or 10 down. Something like that.
How much was he down? Would you say before?
We 4 down. He was only 4 down in the beginning of the week, and he was not very consistent with the ball flight. We got him down. We found out if he was 8 down, that was probably a very good number he was aiming at. So he was trying to go steep and shallow it out with his wrist, a little bit more overtaking. So the idea was not digging the leading edge into the ground, just crazy. So we were still trying to shallow it out, and that actually gave a really nice, consistent ball flight. So that's why we're aiming for a little steeper, because he was maybe a little too shallow lately. And if he progresses more towards, I'd say 70, 80 yard shots, I like to see more in the region of 6 degrees down, maybe. That seems to work for him really nicely. I would say that's probably the numbers, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm finding with my tour guys and really good players.
So that numbers you like too, yeah?
Yeah, 5, 6, 7 is about as much down as they're hitting, and being able to control the arc height and the exit and all that's, just in the contact and flight.
Yeah, we've just been testing around a little bit with different tech angles recently.
I've been doing a lot of that as well.
Yeah. Ball comes out a little bit hotter now, but it seems to be more, you can control it better. It's much better contacts on the face, much more consistent. We're playing around with that. But that's basically what we're doing the whole week. And Lucas doesn't give me any breaks during the tournaments. We just working. Yeah. What's interesting is, what's really becoming a trend now, TrackMan now has these little carry cases. Now you put in the TrackMan in for the tour players. You can now just grab the TrackMan and just put it there. You don't even have to put it out of the case.
I haven't seen that.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. And they have the tour players now. And then you just basically, now you can put TrackMan on instant mode, and now many players are running around the golf course. The caddy carries the golf bag, the player carries the TrackMan, with this new bag, and you just open it. You don't have to put it out the bag. You just open it, put it behind, and it's ready. I've seen several players doing that last week in Munich, and that's definitely something we're going to do soon too, because I think it's sometimes such a difference what you're doing on the golf course.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
Actually, and also like how it's coming out of the rough of the first cut. I think that's also something which is really getting really popular now. Also, with that instant mode, these radar companies are providing now.
Good stuff, my man. That's like behind the curtain, man. I love it. That is like really good stuff. So before we wrap up, like let everybody know how they can follow you. Let's get you a few more 1,000 followers and your YouTube channel, English only. Probably the people are, unless you're in Germany or over in your part of the world.
Yeah.
I'm really big in the UK, man. I mean, my numbers are getting up in the UK. So let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. And I thank you so much for your time. This has been fantastic.
Okay, yeah. Well, my YouTube channel in English is @Bausek Golf. My TikTok, I think, is @Christoph Bausek. And my Instagram is @Christoph_Bausek. Yeah. So these are my main channels now. Happy if you follow, would be happy if you comment maybe at some stage, some of my videos, like when people ask questions, which I can answer. It gives me ideas of new video topics. And I like to talk to the community. Yeah, Jason, and thank you so much. I mean, it obviously has been a dream to be on your show. I really always enjoyed your show so much. And I think it's the best out there.
Thank you so much. You're too kind.
Yeah. And so I thought it was really cool when you said I could come to your show. So really appreciate it to talk. First time to an international audience. So far, I only had podcasts in German. So excuse for my accent and maybe sometimes choosing wrong words in English, but I think we did quite okay.
We did great, man. Thank you so much for your time. I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day, everybody.
What's up, everybody? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you go. First, big thank you to Christoph for coming on the show and sharing his story and insights on golf instruction and coaching. That was fantastic. Hope you enjoyed that. Please give him a follow on social @Christoph_Bausek. He's got some awesome videos and some great information out there, and get to know him a little bit better. You can also give me a follow. I appreciate that. Or reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram. My handle is @GolfGuruTV. @GolfGuruTV. Also, check out my website at golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and more information on my teaching and coaching. And if you have a question, just shoot me a DM. It's easier to do that on Instagram. I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. I've got a bunch to catch up on. I appreciate the love. Music on this episode is by Kevin MacLeod and Zach Mullet. And also a big shout out to my man, Joel North, for his incredible production on this episode. Hope you're practicing, hope you're teaching, and I hope you're passing it on. Study, practice, teach. RIP, my man, Jen Rohn. Talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening.